Hello, and welcome to Womb Stories Project, where we share stories of healing to bear witness, inspire hope, and hold the perspective that the female body is our gift and our ally, especially in this culture that often tells us otherwise. I'm Kit Maloney, the host of this podcast and the founder of KataraLove.com, a space for womb healing through the practice of Yoni Steaming at home. Today's episode is a beautiful one. It's with Lilliana Rivera, who is a womb healer, sharing about the many moments and the many reasons she has turned to steam over the past decades for her healing. Her story illuminates what is possible when we build this relationship to the steam practice and to the womb wisdom within us, allowing it to prepare us for when the hard moments arrive. There are so many nuggets of wisdom here, and I hope you receive lots of insights for your own journey within hearing Liliana's. Enjoy. Liliana, thank you so much for being here with me today. You have such beautiful medicine to share in your story. I invite you to, in your words, share with us the ways in which these therapies have brought you to who you are right now, today.
Thank you for this invitation. Thank you for having me here. I'm really honored. My womb story was an interesting journey. When I first started cycling, there was a lot of shame that continued to get layered in my teens and then in my 20s. I had a lot of painful periods, pretty severe, where I remember I used to work at a bookstore and I was on the bathroom floor one day. Memories of a lot of painful cycles and then bouts of yeast infections. And again, shame with that. What is this? I didn't know what it was. It wasn't until I had kids and I went through two cesarean births that I came to this work. I was still experiencing 4 years later symptoms due to my surgeries. One of them was pretty severe, sharp pain around my scar that was random and it would be really shooting pain. There was a lot of tightness around my scar. And I remember my scar being so thick that when I touched it, it felt like an electrical cord. You ever see those really thick electrical cords? That's what it
Sure.
felt like in my lower belly. On top of that, it was numb, just like above the scars. My belly was puffy, and then I had that thick scar and then sharp pain. So there was a lot of trying not to think about that area of my body. I didn't want it touched. But then when I went for the abdominal massage, it was pretty profound. In one of the sessions, I remember starting to notice that my symptoms were resolving. I started getting feeling back in my lower belly. And one of the biggest things was my scar started not just getting softer, but getting thinner and smaller. In that area where I would have sharp pain, I actually found out that it was fascial tissue. It was like fascial congestion. And so just working through the treatments, everything started softening and that pain disappeared. It was really miraculous that all of my physical symptoms started to resolve once I started doing the abdominal therapy. It didn't even take that many sessions. But then on the table, I had like a full body emotional release. And it was this feeling of guilt. I was like, oh my God, why am I feeling guilty? And then it hit me. It was the birth of my son. So I had tried for a VBAC with my son. My daughter was a cesarean. It wasn't an emergency, but it was urgent. And then for my son, I tried for a VBAC and labored for, I don't know, probably 18 hours or something like that. I wasn't progressing. So I had to have another C-section and I was very disappointed. I was sad. I was crying. My body failed, right? All those emotions that women feel when they want to go for a VBAC and it just doesn't happen. And you don't know why. I'm having this experience all over again on the table. So basically, I was holding guilt in my womb all those years
Yeah.
and I didn't even know it.
What was your story? Was it guilt that you hadn't been able to go a direction other than C-section? And why would that have been something for you to carry?
Yeah. So what happened was I went back to that moment. It made it clear that I was holding this guilt of like, I did something wrong. That's why this didn't happen the way I wanted to. I did all the things. I joined Cesarean awareness groups. I got a doula. I didn't even know what a doula was the first time around. I got a midwife because I had a male OBGYN. The first time I got pregnant, I was just like, I'm just going to go natural, and I'll have a hospital birth because I didn't even know that home birthing was an option. And I had just chosen an OB that someone I knew had. So I was very intentional the second time about, I read, I prepared my body, I did all the things and I still ended up with a cesarean. This is before I knew anything about this work. Now, had I done abdominal therapy and steaming, it could have been a different, who knows, right? There's got to be more women that have gone through this and don't even know what they're carrying in their womb. It made it clear to me that we hold so much in our womb spaces, and that's
Yeah.
the power of abdominal therapy and steaming.
It helps us access what's being stored in ways that I haven't had access to otherwise. And I think sometimes that can feel really scary to people because it can feel like, well, why would I want to do that? I don't want to feel guilty and I don't want to feel shame. And it's a little bit challenging to describe, I think. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on this too. That, like, in the way the womb and these practices hold you in connecting to that feeling, it's loving. It's not scary. It's release, and it needs to be held by ourselves or with practitioners in a loving, compassionate way. It is so powerful to be reconnected to what's been stored there, even if it's these heavier emotions that we spend so much time trying to avoid, that in feeling them, we're able to deepen our understanding of what's been happening and also to move through it and to lovingly let it go. I wonder if and how that resonates for you.
I came to abdominal therapy as self care, right? I
Yeah.
had no idea that it was going to heal all my physical symptoms. It basically transformed my life and started a trajectory where I am now a abdominal therapy practitioner, also an educator for the Abdominal Therapy Collective. When you come to the work, you sometimes are confronted with an edge. And I'm very clear about that because sometimes people aren't ready for facing the guilt or whatever other emotion may be held, grief, sadness, trauma. There's so much. And I honor that. I really do. I really do. I think that there's something that brought you to the work initially, but then how far you go with it, it really depends on where you are and what you're ready for. And because women were kind of in this having to do better, or, this person is doing this better, or judging how we mother, how we work, how we are in the world. So for me, I just try not to bring more of that pressure to someone perhaps is just they're not at a place where they're ready to go through processing.
One of the things I find and see in myself and in others is that they're working so much with the energy of the womb that, like, she knows. She knows when we're ready for these releases and we're ready for this time to feel. And so it's not rushed. There's not a should. There's not somebody else's pace or schedule we're on. There's no hierarchy. There's no failure. It's this constant, beautiful spiral with me of what's being unlocked and unearthed and released. It does feel like a timeline that is moving really with alignment, not with the judgment or somebody else's schedule.
Right, right. Because we're constantly deferring outside for what do I do? How do I do this? In
Yeah.
the medical world, right? The doctor tells us what to do, tells us to take this pill, tells us we need this procedure. And so we give their power away so that they can help us. In a lot of ways, they do help us, right?
You and I spoke a few weeks ago that there were even moments of being told how to feel, prescribed how to feel, rather than being met with your own feelings.
Yeah.
And and so if you could speak to that a bit more, particularly in the C-section space, I see and hear this a lot, and I think it will add a lot of value to people.
Yeah, absolutely. So when people come with an experience, it's really about honoring that experience fully, no matter what. I had two cesarean births, and I'm so glad that I was okay and my children were okay. That was what I held onto. There was a part of me that I didn't even realize was holding some emotions around that experience. And some women come out of a cesarean and they know, my gosh, this was heavy and traumatic for me. I'm okay physically, my baby's okay, yet felt really intense and traumatic. Really honoring the fact that you're okay and we can still acknowledge and witness that experience. Acknowledge and witness and offer through the abdominal therapy, through the steaming, some healing and comfort and nourishment.
Yeah, and holding the depth of the full range, the
Yes.
nuance and sometimes paradox, because we have people who can be really connected to the gratitude of the procedure and still holds all sorts of additional emotions from shame and guilt and fear and victimhood and not be any less connected to the gratitude for the procedure. It's just there too. What we've spoken of is how it seems that there is this patterning in our overculture and in Western medicine that just doesn't feel comfortable holding all of it. And so what we're left with is just being told, be this one thing, which is usually grateful or happy. Aren't you happy, though, that you're now safe and that your kids are here and safe? And like somehow you're not also those things by being sad or confused or in grief. I think that these practices can help us lovingly widen the truthfulness we have with ourselves on the deep and nuanced and complex range of feelings that can occur, particularly when it comes to C section.
Absolutely. I mean, when you can really be with the range, then you have this really intimate connection with your own body, with your own inner knowing. The abdominal work and steaming, what it does is it brings your body into homeostasis. When you create the conditions for the body to heal physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, you start to cultivate a different connection with your own inner knowing. And that's what's so powerful about your story.
Thank you. And
Ah,
what Liliana is referencing is an episode that I published recently around avoiding an unnecessary C section. But I was really being told that I had to get on the train. And I do credit the stories I've heard, the healing I've done myself and witnessed in others to hold myself in my knowing that that wasn't the path I absolutely needed to take and therefore could get myself to a different path in that time.
you trusted your body. You trusted your body completely.
Remember doing so much work and thinking, is this message that's like a no to cesarean, is it coming from my own shoulds or is it really aligned from my body? And it was doing my practices and having done my practices with that for so long that had me be really clear that without attachment to the other considerations, like this is a no for me. It's not because I'm avoiding something or I'm determined to some particular outcome. It's a no. And it could have been a yes. And that would have been a whole different slew of work and discernment, right? But it wasn't. This isn't judgment about one procedure over another. It is about giving us the tools along the way to have this connection to what the body is saying and trust in that message. So I just don't want anybody to think I'm saying I trusted my body and therefore I didn't need something because women who need that didn't trust their body. That's not it. It's that I understood through dialogue with my body where she was telling me we could go safely. And that for me was not C section in that one specific birth.
Being in a situation like that, it's intense. You're being pulled in many different directions. You had prepared, and the way you prepared is your relationship to steaming, right? We really think about intelligence in the mind space, in the brain, and it does wondrous things. But the body also has intelligence.
I'm wondering if you can speak more, bringing you back to that moment of connecting to the guilt and being held in it and how that shifted things for you and when steam came into your life.
So it was during one of those sessions that I steamed. She prepared the steam for me, and I sat alone, gave me the spaciousness to sit with this part of my body that had nothing to do with shame, nothing to do with sexuality and how women are objectified, had nothing to do with a medical procedure because I needed some work down there or having children. I had already had my children. This was tending. It was just about tending. The way we tend to our nails and hair, the way we put on makeup, the way we take care of all the parts of our body. This was tending. And it was so sweet to look at it that way. When I started looking into it more and realizing, wow, this has been done in cultures all over the world. And there's some cultures that still do it. And maybe my ancestors did it. This is so cool. And what people did this in the postpartum when women took care of women, just like the abdominal work. They go hand in hand. Yeah.
Oh, so beautiful. Oh, thank you. I'm going to shift gears a little bit because I do know some other really cool aspects of your story. You had these cesarean births, you have your youngest at 4 years old, and that's when you sort of stumble into these practices that help you connect to the emotions and connect to the physical, energetic, spiritual healing and to this realization of the relationship with the womb as a source of wisdom that you can access and be in receptivity of her guidance. And then you go to the doctors and they say fibroids, right?
Right.
So this brought me to like so many tears
Yeah.
to witness this progression. So if you can share for us what happens then and what brought you to the doctors for that diagnosis, and then how you years later, after being in this world of these practices, had such a different reaction.
I went to the doctors and I had had fibroids. It was known that I had fibroids. They would come and go. It was one of those things where I was told, "No, you don't have to worry about it. They're not causing any issues." But when I went for an exam one time at the OBGYN, they said, "Oh, you have a complex cyst." So they
Mm.
call it complex cyst. And the way they worded it, it sounded really serious. I went home and I was just like, oh, geez, what is this? And what does it mean? And what do I do? And I just knew that for fibroids and cysts, the manual therapy is really good, but steaming, that's going to do it. That's going to take care of it. And so I did the Steamy Chick 30-day protocol where I steamed for 10 minutes every day, 30 days. And when I went back to the doctors, the cyst was completely gone. It was so powerful because here I was really concerned about a diagnosis that didn't look good, just like you. I started cultivating that relationship with my own body, with my own body wisdom. And when they told me that, I was like, okay, I know what I'm going to do. When I went back, it's just really interesting because they weren't really interested in knowing how it happened. They were just like, ah, it's gone now. I was like, wow, I really left scared last time.
You're not interested? Like, I would be so interested and fascinated and like, whoa, tell me what you did. It's like this disinterest in steam with this. the tremendous healing of scars that can happen. And with cysts and fibroids too, the patterning of these stories, it boggles everything in me that there isn't somebody who's deeply fascinated. Like, how are some of my patients coming back with no more need for treatments, particularly when often those treatments can be so severe and guiding people down the path to hysterectomy. And I just want to reflect and really name that power of you saying, okay, I know what to do now. That is what I am holding for us, to have that understanding and that cultivation of awareness of our body and awareness of the different tools that we have available to us so that we can come into this trueness of, okay, I know what to do now. I hope with every morsel in my being that my daughter
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
just grow in a world where that is what becomes normalized. That's
Yeah.
how the story goes. And even if somebody's saying to another girlfriend or soul sister, I am stuck, I don't know what to do, then the conversation can be held in orienting them to access their knowing rather than telling or shoulding or forcing, coercing. It's just bringing us all back together to that sense, to that feeling of, okay, I know what to do now.
Or I know who to call, right? I know who to bring in. I know what to gather. I know that if I gather my support, then I can get through this
Right.
situation, whatever the situation may be. So it's really having that sense of knowing that you have resources that are not just one prescription, but that there are lots of options.
Yeah.
There are many options that choosing a different option should feel good. Again, if it's that clear yes, you're trusting your body and no one can guarantee anything.
Right.
No one can guarantee that you're not going to have any issues after that cesarean or after that hysterectomy. Sometimes you have to have these procedures done. And that's another way that this work is powerful. If you've had a cesarean, if you've had a hysterectomy, can abdominal therapy and steaming support you? Absolutely. And many years after, because you can steam from the time you start menarche till post menopause.
It's so exciting. Tell us about women you've been serving post surgeries for steaming.
Yeah. One of my more recent clients, I believe she's around 87. She's not on medication. I mean, that's rare. She lives close to the land. She walks every day in the forest. This is what I find with a lot of older women, that if you have a very elaborate morning routine, somehow you're pretty good. She came to me for healing past trauma. She's like, I'm ready now. And I was like,
87. Yes, you are, girl. You're ready.
I loved it.
Oh.
It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter if you're cycling. I've had women post hysterectomy come to me for symptoms after surgery. No matter what your body has gone through, you can always connect to your womb wisdom, even if the physical womb is not present, right? There's an energetic womb that can never be taken away. And
I feel that and I witness that so often. It is so beautiful and profound. And even just saying those words can be healing to folks. And these women in their 80s who are steaming, they are just incredible. When I hear from them, I've gotten on the phone with some because they're just like, I need to know you more. And it's just so beautiful to receive. The one message I'm thinking of is just thank you note around it was time. It's a similar language to what you just shared. It was time for me to connect to my womb. And I never had. This was a woman who had children, and she spoke to it still as she had never really connected. And here was an opportunity for her to do so through this practice. I had just Oh my gosh. We can have our elders steaming and stepping into that space of honoring their wombs and tending to them, as you say, at this time in their life. It just feels so powerful for backward and forward healing and so
Yeah.
beautiful to witness. Yeah.
Other clients that I've helped are women who have painful sex. So
Mhm.
steaming is very effective for that. Very effective. Especially in the perimenopausal where you start having vaginal dryness. Uh,
Yeah, let's talk about that phase and how you think of that. I know you have some personal experience too with using steaming in your final bleeding years.
oh yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I have a whole other story around my perimenopausal
Yeah.
experience. I went through a scare in my perimenopause where one of the options was probably a hysterectomy. If my symptoms were after the irregular periods, suddenly I started bleeding and I wouldn't stop. It's a lot of blood to the point where I couldn't work, debilitating. So I tried to gather all of my holistic support, my naturopathic doctor, a good OB, another OB, my abdominal therapy, all the other practitioners where, we have this beautiful space where we all can ask questions, our mentors. And Rosita, she just lovingly said, the rose is helpful, the rose tea. I always remember that story about how she came to this work. She studied in Belize and she was with a shaman for over a decade. But prior to that, she was living in this small town in Mexico and everyone had left for a festival. The only one left was her, an elderly woman, and a woman who was very, very pregnant. And in the middle of the night, the elderly woman knocked on Rosita's door and said, come quick. You have to help me. This woman is in labor. Rosita didn't know anything about midwifery or anything, but she was told, you have to come. And so she went. But right after the birth, they both noticed that the woman was bleeding. And so the elderly woman said, go outside and gather rose petals. And so in the middle of the night, she gathered these rose petals right outside. And when she brought them in, the elderly woman put them to boil in water and she gave them to the woman to sip. And Rosita said that within minutes, she stopped bleeding.
The rose, we should have like a series of Moon Stories project on like the rose stories project. Rose medicine is so powerful. I actually had this beautiful opportunity to diet to sit with Rose for 3 weeks in Peru in 2015. Having done that, I feel even more connected to that story. Thank you so much for sharing and the ability for Rose to show up as that powerful healer.
So when I was going through my perimenopause, Rose
Yeah,
was one of my allies. Yarrow was
yeah,
one of my allies. I did temporarily have to take a hormone. I was
yeah,
on progesterone
yeah,
for a little bit,
yeah.
but I trusted my body. It was again, I
It
know what
was
to do.
I know what
I
to
just
do. Yeah.
I got through it. I stopped bleeding. Just my body was just ready. And that was my last bleed. I stopped.
Wow.
After that, I didn't bleed anymore.
How long at a
Scary.
time with those herbs and the progesterone was that?
I was bleeding for at least a couple months straight. I started the herbal tinctures, yarrow. I was doing rose tea. I was also doing Vitex too. But the yarrow was so powerful that it stopped the bleeding right away.
Mhm.
I was doing the tincture around the clock. It stopped it. And I was like, oh, I'm good. And then it came back again. So I was like, oh no. It was just so strong that I needed more support and already had travel plans. So I was like, okay, I can't leave home, in this condition. I think I need something stronger temporarily. And
Yeah.
so for about 3 weeks, maybe a month, I did the hormones. And then when I came back, I got all the exams, the hysterosonogram, ultrasound, all of that. And they said, well, you've got a fibroid. We don't know why you're bleeding, but you can get an IUD. And I was like, I don't think so. and trusting my body.
Yeah.
The progesterone did help, but I was still spotting a lot. I just kept taking care of myself. It just slowly, within a month of that last visit to the OB, it was just, I was done. I didn't need an IUD. I have clients that they're absolutely past menopause, but they put an IUD in while they were still bleeding and they're afraid to take it out. So they don't know when to take it out. So I didn't want that to happen to me. And I had tried the copper IUD and it was terrible experience when I was young. And I didn't want anything hormonal because I had been on the pill when I was in my 20s and that was not a good experience. So I just knew that if I kept, taking care, and tending to my body, that I could, you know, find a way to get through this. And it was something that my body had to go through. It was like my last bleed, but it was
Yeah.
long.
Yeah. It was fun. Yeah. Yeah. And it again reconnected you to, I know what to do. And I love witnessing and really honoring the variety of tools that you felt called to and that were aligned for you, and to meet the reality of travel that was aligned. So that's so beautiful. Liliana, I could continue to talk. I know there are so many stories. I look forward to continuing to be in collaboration with sharing them. And I just want to thank you for the work that you're doing. And please let us hear from you about where we can learn more, where there might be opportunities to work directly with you.
Yeah. So you can go right to my website, lilianarivera.com. You can schedule a consult with me. I'm happy to chat with you in any way that I can support you. I see people in person, but I also support women online.
So wonderful. And I just love that I'm having this experience after having lived in Maine for about 6.5 years, but so many of those in COVID times, that the goddess and spirit are sending me these New Englanders. I hope that I get to connect with you in person. It means so much to me. And thank you, thank you, thank you for your wisdom and for your time and for your journey. So much
Thank
gratitude.
you. Thank you for what you do, and thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, love. Thank you for being here and part of this project of deeply honoring the womb and being here to receive and be gifted by all the wisdom that is within. I am so grateful, and I encourage you with so much love and gratitude to share this episode, to subscribe to the podcast wherever it is that you listen to it, so that more people can find it, more people can learn about these different tools, and more people can feel the impact of holistic womb health and benefit from STEAM. So thank you for that consideration. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day. And I just want to ping that for me at the end of this episode, I really dropped into what my learnings were and heard this beautiful prayer intention of, may our daughters know that they have the tools and the networks to know how to care for themselves. This is the message from the womb and the message of the medicine of STEAM that I leave you with today. Thank you.